Yo, what up guys, it's Mattrixx, and today I will be showing you how to start a remix. So back when I started, I kind of found it difficult to know how to even start a remix, you know? How do I get the acapella, or how do I do this and that? And so I'm just gonna go over over the time how I've learned and had experience. So the first thing you want to do is obviously pick a song, and usually you want to pick a song which you have an idea for, because that'll make it way easier. The next step you got to do is actually check if you are able to do the remix, because if it was copyrighted and it gets taken down, there's really no point of you doing that remix, because it's not going to be able to go up. So the first thing you want to do is go to YouTube, and then after you go to YouTube, you want to click on Creator Studio, and after you get to here, you want to go on Create. You could go from here where it says Music Policies, or it also says it up here. And so after this, you just type in the song. So in this case, it's we're gonna be using Imagine Dragons' Believer. First things first. When we get to this point, as you can see, I already typed the name Imagine Dragons, and it doesn't show up on here. Even if I type in the name of the song, it does not show up. And so that could be one of the problems you come across. What I do next after this is actually type in the name Imagine Dragons, and then you could put remix, and then see if other people have already uploaded it. So if other people have it up, that means you could have it up. So you might come across your video getting monetized, but it really depends on you if you want to get monetized or not. Now we know if you're able to remix a song or not. And so after that, the next step is to actually, if you don't have the song yet, you could download it through whatever it is you could download songs through. So you want to go ahead and tab the tempo of the song, but usually if you're a beginner, you're probably not going to get it as accurate as you could be. So what you want to do next is actually just type in Imagine Dragons Believer BPM, and usually it's like the first website you could already click on, which is called Song BPM, and they give you the actual BPM of the song. And so in this case it's 125. So you go back to FL Studio and then just drag it down to 125. And yeah, so either way, if you could have tapped it in, or you could have just dragged the tempo. So the next step is actually to get it to match with the grid. So usually you want to go on none, so that way it gets no restriction. So the reason I have all these right here is for different reasons. Usually, let's say you would start off with the song, right? So let's actually drag that up, and let's put this over here. Usually if it's a new song, there will not be an acapella for that song. Most of the time it takes about at least a month for someone to do a DIY acapella, unless the studio acapella was released. But most of the time you won't have the acapella if the song were to be new. This is when you have to use the original song, and you have to unfortunately play around with this and then remix that. Now it's also even if the acapella was already out, it's up to you whether you want to remix a song, starting just with the acapella and then change the whole song and remix it, or you could take the original song and then change up things like the drop to however the remix is going to be. Once we have this, as I dragged it in, since we already have the tempo set in, and then we drag it on this one, it was pretty easy just because it actually starts on the kick, but a lot of times it won't start on the kick, or on the first count. Usually if it's starting off of count 2 or 3 or whatever, so what you want to do is just drag it over a few bars away so you can line it up with the tempo or the grid. As you see, we have it perfectly just because this is the way the song is set up. But again, if if it wasn't perfect, then starting on count 1, then all you gotta do is just drag it over here, and then like let's say this was actually count 2 of the song, all we would have to do is just drag it like that, and let's say this was 1, and then that's how it would be. And you wouldn't be able to drag it to the left, because then it would mess up the count of the metronome, because it goes 1, my bad, because it goes 1 1 2 3 4, and if you dragged it over, the song would actually start on 2 when the metronome starts on 1, so it just wouldn't match up with the clicks or the hi-hat. So because this song actually starts on count 1, we're just gonna go ahead and drag it over. Now one thing about, let's say you actually wanted to use the acapella, sometimes people could have trouble with matching the acapella with the grid, just because it doesn't have a kick or something like a snare or whatever, just to be able to line it up. And so what helps is you could drag it in the original song first, and then after you have the original song set up, you just drag in the acapella right under it, and so you just match the song with the above song. So first you just gotta listen to the first song,
first things first,
and then you just first, so we know that this part should go right under here, right? So you just go like that, and then
first things first,
now we could hear the the difference, so you obviously have to drag it to go perfectly along with the song.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, ooh, the way that things have been. Oh, ooh. Second thing, second, don't you tell me what you think that I can be. I'm the one.
So that sounds like it's pretty good. A lot of times when you get it like matched perfectly, it kind of sounds like it has a flanger on it. Once you get this matched up, that means the acapella is matched up with the tempo of the project.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the.
So now that we got that matched up, you could actually just go ahead and drag it back, just because to make it start on the 1.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, ooh, the way that things have been. Oh, ooh.
Now from this point on, it really starts going more into how you're gonna start your remix and how you're gonna do it individually, because at this point it's pretty much set up, except from here, this is when you start doing your own things, but one thing you can start doing is, like, if you have the original song and you want to actually make it sound better in the mix, so it sounds kind of more like an acapella instead of the original song, what you do is you want to make sure you cut the lows, maybe by for most songs it's gonna start at like about 100 right here. And then just depending on the song, you want to keep on dragging it up. You want to drag it to a point where you don't get rid of too much of the lower frequencies of the vocal, just because it's gonna start taking away from the actual voice. So
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of.
So if you see, if I go to 200, you can actually start to hear that it's kind of thinning out the vocal.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, ooh, the way that things have been. Oh, ooh.
But I think that's a good place right here. What might also help is just cutting out the high ends.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, ooh, the way that things.
Something like that, because you don't want to mess with it too much, because then it will also start taking away from the vocal. So really, that's pretty much it. Like, you could also maybe boost the vocals.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up.
I say that would actually be pretty much it to trying to make it sound so that way it could be like the most compatible with your, like the rest of the remix, you know. You could also put a reverb, but you don't want to go too crazy with it just because it still has like snares and kicks, so you know you're gonna be able to hear it. So maybe just like something with a low high cut and then cut out the lows, and something like this.
First things first, I'ma say. First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up.
So yeah, that sounds pretty good. When it comes to the acapella, if you have a perfect acapella, you don't really have to do much except, you know, actually add your own things, like whatever you want to do with it, coming to effects. But there's gonna be times where you come across an acapella where it has like the background noise of the original track, if it's a DIY.
Say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, ooh, the way that.
So I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it just has background noises from the song. The person who did the acapella, you know, they weren't able to get rid of the noise. So you can hear it like a lot right here, like right there on that one space. So like again, doing the same thing, just kind of trying to EQ it. You just want to maybe just like cut it right here.
Second thing, second, don't you.
For this one, it's gonna be more of the like cutting out the highs for those background noises.
Second thing, second, don't you tell me what you think that I can be. I'm the one at the sail, I'm the master of my sea. Oh, ooh, the master of my sea. Oh, ooh.
So something like that, but you won't really be able to get rid of it too much. It's just gonna be based on like how much you can cover it with the remix. Anything that you're gonna add onto it, it's gonna be really up to that to try and cover those little spots. And then if you really want to go even more, you can let's say for these empty spots right here, so like right here on this spot, if you want to clean it up a bit more, you could go ahead and actually create a automation clip for the volume, and you know you would be able to fade this out just like really quick and then bring it back in and then bring it out. Other than that, you're just pretty much gonna have to stick with it because you can't really get rid of the noise. So yeah, after this, it really depends on like what type of remix you want to do. Like let's say if you wanted to change the tempo for the type of remix, the next thing you're gonna have to do is, so to change the tempo, you would have to go into just right click on this and then go to fit to tempo. But you got to make sure you're on the correct tempo for the project, so which is 125, and then you just click this and you want to make sure you click 125 project. You just got to wait for it to stretch. I'm gonna just do the acapella too. And so now all you got to do is drag this up or down to whatever tempo you want to do. Like let's say I wanted to do like future bass, so maybe just like drag it to like 143, just make it faster, a bit faster.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, ooh, the way that things have been. Oh, ooh.
So yeah, that sounds pretty good. You also don't want to change the tempo too much, just because the more you change it, the more you're gonna start to notice the quality going down of the sound, and so you really don't want to overdo it. Or not just because of the quality, but a lot of times when you just change the tempo too much, just like the way, like how fast it is, it just doesn't sound good. But yeah, you just want to play around with that, and if you like how it sounds, then you know, just keep it at that. After this, it really just depends on your mixing levels and what you know how to do. Because at this point I can just start putting pianos, you know, percussion and all that, and you're just gonna have to you know, like play around with the acapella and try to make it fit in with your remix. So bringing it back to 125, just because I'm gonna be talking about why I have this instrumental here. The reason I brought it in is because you can actually use this to, like, let's say if you wanted to cut a loop, like if you were actually using the original song or just the acapella, whatever, you know, and you wanted to loop a part of the, like, let's say I just wanted to loop the intro, right? So and then I would loop right here, but you wouldn't be able to do that just because, let's say the original track had vocals starting from right here. Now if you wanted to loop these 4 bars right here, you wouldn't be able to do that just because, you know, it has vocals in them. Now you could probably play around with it and maybe even just like cut these parts, but just bringing in the instrumental would make it way easier to cut out whatever you want from the song and use it wherever you want. That's just like an extra tip that I had, but I usually don't do it, but it really just depends on like what I'm doing. But yeah, just thought it would be helpful for you guys to know that if you ever wanted to get something from the song, bringing in the instrumental will give you the option to use that part without the vocal. So that's pretty much it when having to start a remix. Pretty much after this is just based on what you do with the actual remix and, you know, what you do and stuff, and it's just gonna sound depending on how you mix it, or, you know, your level of skill and your creativity. So yeah, hope you guys found that helpful, just anything I went over, and hopefully you learned something new, because I know there's a lot of tutorials out there already, so maybe you've heard whatever I said already, but I just hope it helps out some people who didn't know this already, or, you know, whatever. So yeah guys, that's pretty much it. If you learned something, you know, go ahead and press that like button. So yeah, peace out, and I'll see you on the next one.